Good day. My name is Jerry McGee, and I've been asked to conduct a tour for the visiting descendants of the Keizer family, of Thomas, Dove, and Mary Keizer. And I'm conducting a tour primarily for the family members, and we selected two of those sites to give a little sample of what we'll be seeing on the tour. There will be about 11 or 12 different stops. And we selected the first one as the monument recognizing the donation land claim. That was historically very significant in the Pacific Northwest. And then as our second site, we moved further west to the Keizer Rapids Park. And we'll talk about why they call it the Keizer Rapids Park, and why the Keizers crossed over the river and to come back to Keizer. And from here we'll be going on to the house where John Brooks' house existed, and then on to where Thomas Dove built his house, and do a perimeter of all the claims, which will be about 8.5-mile tour before we're done. So I'm glad you could join us, and I hope you enjoy the few stories that we tell along the way. We're here at the Donation Land Claim Monument, which historically is perhaps the most significant spot in the Pacific Northwest. It was here that the very first donation land claim was made. And the connection between it and the Keizer family is that it was claimed by John Brooks Keizer, son of Thomas Dove Keizer. And let me explain just a little about this law. When the pioneers left Missouri in 1843, a very powerful senator, Senator Lynn, had pushed through the Senate a bill that would give the immigrants free land. That's why the Keizers and all the other pioneers came to Oregon in that wagon train of 1843. But unbeknownst to them, in the 6 months that they were on the trail, the House of Representatives voted against this Land Act. And so the pioneers are coming out here expecting to get free land, only to find out that the rules had been changed. But fortunately, the provisional government patterned a land act almost identical to what Senator Lynn had tried to propose. And so they followed that direction, fortunately. Very basically, it gave each pioneer that was here before 1850 640 acres of land if they were married, half that amount if they were single. And so you can imagine there were a lot of very early and quick marriages going on. That wasn't the case with John Brooks Keizer, however. The law was very unusual. It was one of the first laws passed in America that allowed women to own property in their own right. And in fact, the law called for each claim to be owned half by the wife and half by the husband. And the Keizer family, on all their claims, indicated that the north half of the claim would be the wife's half, the south half would be the male half. So they would have to live on it. The wording said build an abode, that meant build a house, and live on it and cultivate the land for at least 4 years, then it would be their land. So this was the first one that was claimed in the Oregon Territory, which was, of course, a far greater area than just the present state of Oregon. The rest of the Keizer family followed suit rather soon, and the father, Thomas Dove Keizer, made his claim. Another brother, Pleasant Keizer, a brother-in-law, two brother-in-laws claimed land, and so as a consequence, from River Road to the Willamette River was all Keizer property that they claimed. The actual corner post would be sitting under the stoplight out there, but the city apparently didn't want us to put a monument in the middle of the street. So this is as near as we could get to it. But you are at a very significant historical site. We're sitting in the Keizer Rapids Regional Park. And the reason why they call it a regional park is because the state and Marion County and the city of Keizer has combined their resources to procure the land that we're sitting on. This actual site is the northwest corner of John Brooks' donation land claim. And it's called the Keizer Rapids Park because of the rapids that's in the Willamette River about a quarter of a mile over my shoulder. And unfortunately, on this day, we can't drive down to see the rapids, but we'll have another opportunity to see the river in all of its glory. Many people have asked a question or pondered, why did the Keizer family cross the Willamette River? Why didn't they stay on this side? As you probably know, as members of the family, they crossed in the fall of 1843 and recrossed to this site the following spring. Well, there is an interesting story as to why. They didn't cross the river just to get on the other side. I have to go back a few steps. They ended their 6-month journey over what later became the Oregon Trail, coming down. They stayed overnight at Champoeg, and then their next stop was going to be at the Mission I can't recall his name. Anyway, the Mission Park. Jason Lee. Jason is the name I couldn't come up with. The Jason Mission. They knew that there were 3 substantial buildings there, and the Keizers had hoped to move into one of them to winter. It was already in the middle of November when they arrived there. But to their dismay, when they arrived at the mission, the Applegate family had already moved in. And there was 45 members of the Applegate contingency. And the Applegates let it be known rather early on that they weren't too pleased to have the Keizers join them for the winter. Now, it has been said by many people, had the tables been turned, the Keizers would have welcomed the Applegates. But as it was, the Applegates did not welcome the Keizers, and so the Keizers moved on the very next day. The Applegates also informed the Keizer family that they intended to claim all the east side of the river. And so the Keizers, not wanting to cause any difficulty, decided if the Applegates were going to claim here, that they would cross the river and look at the prospects on what later became Polk County. Well, the next spring, the Keizer family got word, became aware that the Applegates were moving out. And indeed they did. They moved across the river also into Polk County on Salt Creek. And they built a mill there, and they were established there for 4 or 5 years before they moved to Southern Oregon. Yoncalla became well known. Everything is Applegate in Southern Oregon. Applegate River and Applegate this and Applegate that. So when the Keizers found out that the Applegates had moved on, then they moved back across the river. That's why they crossed twice. Crossing a river is a significant event, and the pioneers would not have crossed it unnecessarily. They came back over here, they liked the land, and they claimed nearly 2,700 acres on the east side of the river. So people have often wondered, why did the Keizers cross the river twice? And that's the best answer that anybody has come up with. And it's interesting, isn't it? Had the Keizers stayed on the other side, and had the Applegates stayed here, you think this city would be called Keizer? Not on your life. It would have been called Applegates. Applegate City or something. But Fortunately for us today, the Applegates moved on and the Keizers stayed. And as a result, we have this beautiful area that is being developed and named in their honor.